Welcome to Outdoor Amateur Radio Readiness Basics. In 15 minutes, brought to you by the Ulster and Northern Duchess Readiness Group. My name is Steve, amateur radio call sign Kilo 2 Golf Oscar Golf. Where did things start when it comes to portable radio? If we look over back past the last 80 years, in the field, at the coast, in the car, or when it matters most, from its earliest days, radio was actually pretty portable. Today, we can see Deanna out in the field tracking wildlife. We can see Carly at the coast operating radio from a park. John in the frigid cold operating part of winter field day. And an Australian ham in the outback making contacts around the world from his backpack radio. So radio has continued to be very portable. The uses have changed, but suffice to say, radio continues to find new ways and new folks to be very, very portable. These days, most folks would consider their form of communications via their cell phone. It's generally believed to work almost everywhere, at every place, at every time. If you were, however, at a remote park, on a mountain, or on an island, would you still say the same? Most people might say those are not everyday locations. So now let's look at something that we would consider as an everyday. Just recently, all of Ulster County lost its power, which affected the ability to utilize cell phones as a primary form of communication. If you're out enjoying some of the great wilderness, such as the Catskills or other local parks here in the Hudson Valley, there's many places where cell phone coverage does not exist. So certainly there needs to be some other form of communication. Hopefully I have your attention now. And this is a great reason why we're going to talk about why you should buy a walkie-talkie or a radio. But you can't just buy any walkie-talkie. Why? Because many license-free services such as Family Radio, Citizens Band, or multi-use radio service might not have anyone in range, or somebody might not even be listening. And so this is a great way to talk about how to get ready for utilizing amateur radio as your alternate communications method. Since 2008, amateur radio within the United States has grown at a tremendous rate. This might surprise somebody considering how much more of a mature communications infrastructure we have today. But while we have learned, even if we have the best cellular phone networks, they still go down and we need to rely upon some form of communication. And some of the reasons that actually have helped promote amateur radio's growth are programs such as Parks on the Air and other readiness type of activities that help encourage utilizing amateur radio. Another motivator has been the dropping of the mandatory Morse code requirements back in 2007. And another point to make here is there's also that much more equipment that's directly focused on portable and active readiness use. So if somebody is looking for portable communications, there's now even more equipment available that's going to appeal to these type of scenarios. So just because if you have a ham radio doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready for everything. It's really the human that makes the radio valuable. You need to know how to use it. If you do have a handheld or portable radio, knowing how to utilize it through programming its various functions is really needed, and you're best suited to do that well in advance if there is an emergency. We know that life critical moments do happen, so it's best for you to be prepared in utilizing your radio and also to help prepare others. So if you have an amateur radio license, talk to your friends and family about getting the same. If you all have an amateur radio license and have a radio, if there is an emergency, having reliable communications is a really great thing to have. So again, don't believe the hype that amateur radio is the solve-all, end-all for everything. You need to practice using your amateur radio to really get its massive amount of benefits. So practice, practice, practice. You need to be prepared. Learn how to use your radio at home before you go out to the field. If you're going to be out utilizing a radio, great ways to practice includes activities such as parks on the air, summits on the air, and islands on the air. And again, these are great ways to prep for when you need communications readiness most. So now let's talk about a basic radio and to prove a couple points. So the particular radio showed here, one of its interesting features is you can charge this over a USB micro cable. If you do have a USB power bank or a charger for your cell phone in your car, you can utilize the same type of cable to charge your radio, and this might become very handy in the future. Another nice feature with this particular model is it has a built-in flashlight. While that might sound a little goofy, having an extra form of illumination, especially at night, in a power outage might actually come in handy. This particular radio also offers a GPS capability, which will allow you to share your location with others using APRS, which stands for Automatic Packet Reporting System. If others have a radio like this, they can see your position and you can see theirs. Most radios can be complicated, but if you spend the time to read your manual and better understand some of its functions, it's going to be relatively easy to utilize and change some of the different functions. So this particular radio can be actually used fairly easily. It's also not something that you only can utilize for amateur radio communications. If needed, you can monitor local weather, FM broadcast radio and news, as well as other services such as local first responders. It also has built-in Bluetooth, which if you have a laptop or a smartphone, you can connect the radio over Bluetooth to those devices. And if you have a mapping application, you can see your location as well as others who are also using the APRS functionality built into your radio. So for under $150, this is a really great feature-rich radio. So if you want to look for this radio or others, these might be some helpful features that you might want to consider. So beyond having a radio, there's a number of different accessories that you might want to consider having on hand, one of which might be a better antenna. There's many different projects out there that are relatively easy to build projects where you can gain extended range for communications. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. Also, having an antenna adapter allows you to connect the antenna to your radio, or if you have multiple radios that use different connectors, having the appropriate adapters are going to be very, very important. If you have a piece of rope with the antenna, you could easily hoist this up in the tree, which will increase your communications range. Might also come in handy to have an extra water bottle, an empty water bottle, I might say, and you can store these accessories in the water bottle to keep them safe and on hand. You might also want to even consider dropping a rechargeable flashlight in the water bottle along with these other accessories. So just a couple things to think about. If you are looking to be ready and prepared with your radio, these are some helpful gadgets to have on hand as well. So in case of the antenna on the previous slide, it's a relatively easy thing to make. It's made from 3 parts. It's less than 5 feet long. You can extend your communications range by over 10 times. It can be constructed in under 30 minutes. There's lots of different YouTube videos available. You can quickly do some searches on YouTube for terms such as Slim Jim antenna or ladder J-pole antenna. We will actually be demonstrating this antenna in use, and we're also going to show how to build one of these on an upcoming UNDR event, which is taking place on February 26th, 2022. And in a few months, we'll be changing gears and talking about building HF antennas, and we'll get into that in a little bit more. But as you can see, the UNDR group is working on a number of in-person events to help with practical training and readiness applications. So far we've talked about local communications utilizing VHF and UHF radios. As an example, if you're looking for longer range communication, you might want to consider as your next adventure to learn about by looking at HF radios, and some suggested starting points are shown here on the middle. We have the Yaesu FT891 and Xiegu X6100. So now let's go to a field video thanks to Nolan N2WU, who will show one of using these radios in the field to show how he has prepared to be ready out in the field when it comes to communications.
All right, I'm Nolan, November 2 Whiskey Uniform, here promoting Winter Field Day for Hudson River Radio Relay out to Hunter Mountain, New York. So here I got my gear laid out, and I'll see how long it takes for me to set up an antenna and get on the air.
Okay.
All right, so I've got about 1700 UTC. I'm going to throw my antenna up into this tree. You got my paddle attached to my knee, and then I'll be ready to go.
So as we saw, it was very easy for Nolan to throw his wire antenna up in the tree, connect it to his radio, and as we can see in the video, he's utilizing Morse code. And it sounds like he's made his first contact.
So in just about 5 minutes there, I was able to talk to France at station F4WBN. So now we'll move on to our next station after this.
So as we can see on Nolan's pad there, he has his HF radio, and you can also see his handheld VHF radio in the
Now, I don't know if
background.
I hear anyone else on this pileup. I don't really want to operate more because it's pretty cold out here. So I think at this point I'll call silent key and we'll pack up. Well, and once again, this is Nolan, November 2 Whiskey Uniform, promoting a Hudson River Radio Relay all the way up from Hunter Mountain in Catskills, New York. So make sure to tune in June when we operate on Constitution Island from the West Point Amateur Radio Club, W2KGY. So thanks, and send me threes.
So thanks to Nolan and also to Stephen KJ5HY for a great field video while demonstrating Summits on the Air activity. And if by chance, if Nolan and Stephen were stranded on the mountain, they did have communications. Not only did they have voice capability, they also had the ability to use Morse code. And this is exactly one of the reasons why you practice using your amateur radio equipment, and is an exact reason why the Hudson River Radio Relay event exists. You can learn a little bit more information about that at www.hudsonriverradiorelay.com. And again, because an event like that involves things like parks on the air, summits on the air, and islands on the air, it's a great way to not only show readiness preparation practice, but also public awareness about amateur radio. And so thank you for spending a few moments of your time with us to learn a little bit more about outdoor amateur radio basics in 15 minutes. You can learn more about upcoming UNDR group events by visiting our website at under-group.com. We have a weekly net that meets on a local amateur radio repeater on 146.805 megahertz, thanks to the Overlook Mountain Amateur Radio Club. On the fourth Monday of every evening at 7:30, we have a casual video meeting that anyone, regardless if they have an amateur radio license or not, can join. And then we also have various in-person events, and all of this can be found on our website, on our Facebook page. So again, thank you for the time, and have a great day.